Welcome into another edition of Bleav in Mets, my third episode of the new podcast, also under the Unfiltered umbrella, where you might be listening as well, both via Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. Get me on Twitter or X at Casey Stern for all the information on the YouTube channel, Instagram, and more. My guest today, longtime friend, has been on this program many times on the Unfiltered side, and he is the bench coach for the New York Metropolitans, of course, John Gibbons. Gibby, I'm appreciative, my friend. How are you, sir?
He's the red hot Mets. Did you say
Yes, the hottest team in baseball, 23-10 since June 3rd. How about that?
Is that what it is? Okay, you know
Yeah.
what? Hey, Case, we got a good team though. We're just in a lot of ways we're playing up to our potential. If you want to know the truth.
I do want to know the truth. That's why I have you here. I always tell, and the truth I always tell you every time you come on is we got to pay off sponsors. So I'll tell you that Bet Online, your number one source for your sports betting needs: baseball, golf, soccer, all the big fights, every stat, matchup, and live odds, and even allows Gibby to drink his coffee. When the game's over, head over to our online casino and get in on the game of blackjack. See how smooth that was, poker, unwind on over 150 slot games. Then get in on all the action on the website right now by using the promo code Bleav. It's BLEAV. 50% off and a free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. It's Bet Online. The game starts here. All right, so I want to start here because you talk about all that has gone on lately. It is the best record in baseball since June 3rd. What happened? There was a team meeting. There are all kinds of little things, but from your vantage point, what has happened to get this team here?
You know what, Casey? Honestly, it's just we're playing to our potential. I think we got off to a slow start. We weren't hitting it all, and then I got before I go on, I got to give Carlos Mendoza, our manager, a lot of credit because we could have disappeared completely because we got off to that bad start, picked it up, were relevant again, and then hit the skids big time, right? And then, but he held us all together, and then we got hot again, and we finally started combining offense with pitching, and our bullpen actually held us together early on. Kept us, kept our heads above water. They've struggled a little bit on and off because they get used so much in today's game. But now it's really everything's coming together. But when you score runs, you can cover a lot of things. It give you some breathing room, and we've beaten the teams we're supposed to beat.
Yeah, I want to get into and dig into a lot from this, but let's start with Carlos Mendoza because you brought that up. You know what it takes to be a successful manager in this sport. You also know how difficult it is to do the first time out and the learning curve that comes with it. What has impressed you most about what he's done and how he's handled things for a guy doing it for the first time?
Yeah, Casey, he's steady, man. He really is. He was in New York, I think 5 or 6 years as a bench coach, right? So he's seen how you operate here, right, in the city. But he's got what it takes because he's even keeled. He'll blow up every now and then like you're supposed to, if it calls for some emotion. But he's just a steady guy. He's a good dude. He's a good man to be. First of all, he's fair to these guys. He communicates really, really well, and he makes the job enjoyable. And you know what? There's no question we have talent though. But the manager's number one job is to get the most out of that, right? And the team's very similar to what it was last year. But they didn't perform like they should have, or what it was expected. This year, they're performing like it's what everybody expects to this point anyway.
There's a lot has impressed me and a lot of the players through all of this, but I got to bring up Lindor because I thought, and you know how it is in today's day and age. I thought, and managers always know how this is because you're always in the crosshairs of dealing with all the bullshit from the media, right, and all the the up and down hero to zero. But here's Lindor off a great year last year, has a terrible April, and the calendar's not even in May, and people casting him off. The contract is a bust. Get him out of here. Maybe there's a way we can move him, right? I mean, and I'm hearing all of this, and I'm thinking this is insane. But from the outside, I could not have been more impressed at the way he handled all of that. Stood in front of the fire in a press that is not easy, Gibby, in New York, right? Build the play back to what we're used to and should have clearly been an all-star. We all know that. What's been your take from your vantage point on what you've watched from Lindor as this year has kind of developed?
Hey, Casey, he's been incredible. I'd seen him in the past. When he was playing in Cleveland, I watched some Mets games on TV the last couple of years. But Not too funny. I told him, a few weeks ago. I said, "Listen, I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were this good." And that's the truth. First off, he plays every day. He comes to play every day. He's got a smile on his face, good or bad. You know, that's rare these days. But he's out there every stinking day. I don't care what the score is. He doesn't come out of the games. But he got up to that slow start you were talking about, and he was taking heat. But he kept that smile on his face because he knew, he knew he was good. And then everything just came together. The great players, that have been around the game and they produce every year. Eventually, that's all going to come together and going to have another their normal type year, right? And he's on pace to do just what he did last year. Um, but I've never seen anybody as steady as this guy, and I've been around a lot of good ones. He doesn't ride that roller coaster, which is so big, and he's proven that he can play in a tough town, and a lot of guys can't do that. So I tip my hat to him. But he's kind of our leader out there. You can, but it is amazing that how he plays every day. He never bags out. You never need to take him out. Uh, yeah, I've been impressed. Really,
Yeah,
really impressed.
you know this, but people don't give enough credit. I talk about this over the years to guys that come from markets like Cleveland, and there's nothing against it. Just waste. I mean, it's
Right,
not New
right.
York, right? You get 5 beat guys in a room, versus what you got in New York in that clubhouse, right? And then to come to New York and with that contract on your back, right, to be the man, and then to go through struggles. First season went through struggle, bounced back last year, great year, go through struggles again in April. That is incredibly difficult to do. How much has he set the tone for everyone else in the way that you talk about him going to the post, if you will, every day?
Well, that's big. When your star players show up to play every day, and they're out there, everybody's got to do it, right? But he's a grounded individual, and I think that helps him. But he doesn't ride, like I said, when you don't ride that roller coaster. He's the guy everybody looks to. He doesn't have those big emotional swings, and that allows him to be good every day. And it's really I can't understand how he's not on the All Star team. I get it. Some guys get slighted here. I mean, that's part of it, but that's kind of what's wrong with our game. If this guy is not on the All Star team, something's wrong.
Well, part of it is, and it's a different conversation, but you got the one per team. So you get a guy like CJ Abrams with the Nationals. So he's got to be their pick, and he's a shortstop. So then it takes away a shortstop and all
Oh
this
yeah,
other crap that goes involved. But
no,
he
I
should
get
have
it.
been. And, I mean, I don't want to get into controversies, but the fact that the league may want Pete in the home run derby may be one reason why he gets in instead of Lindor. Who knows? They should both be in. So should Nimmo,
Nimmo,
uh,
yeah, all
who's
of them.
been on fire. And with the power and the run production over the last 3 weeks, Gibby, did you realize? Because from afar, Lindor, you managed against Lindor, right? You know him, and we all know Pete. We've watched Nimmo develop, but it was during a couple of years where you got to, finally take some rest and spend time with the family. Did you realize how good and capable of being great Nimmo was? What's been your take on him so far?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea he was this good either. Yeah, you look at the top of our lineup. Our top of our lineup's as good as anybody in baseball. And I know everybody talks about the Dodgers, this and that, and I'm not going where we're better than the Dodgers or anything like that. But then when you had JD Martinez, and the Alonso down there, that's a tough freaking lineup. But as far as Nimmo goes, I'd seen his numbers. I knew this guy was a good player, but he said he's a good player. But he's another really good player that just keeps getting better and better. And I've talked to the hitting coaches. They talk about how he's progressed over the years, and he's developed power and all that. But he gives you a great at bat, and he hits lefties as well as anybody. Used to be, a lot of times you see those, you got that lefty in your lineup on your hitter on your team, and you worry about, if you're facing a tough lefty that night, you don't even give it a second of thought. With Nimmo, he's going to give you a good at bat, and he's as good against them as he is right-hander. So yeah, he's but like I said, we do have a good team.
And again, the attitude, right? Positive all the time. I love that he's out there saying he wants the team to go be buyers at the deadline. Like, I love that, right? And obviously, with the deal that he got, a lot of confidence and bravado can come with that. But I love that he's doing that. A lot of the vibes that we talk about, and that's been something that has been discussed a lot, come down to this OMG. And of course, we're talking about Mr. Candelita himself with Jose Iglesias, who another guy you managed against. We've all seen him, right? Defensive wizard. We all remember him playing with the Red Sox, and here he is. How he's in the minors for as long as he was, I have no idea. But here he is coming up, giving, to me, I think, the best at bat of the season, you could argue. The walk that he had to set up the Lindor walk-off hit against the Pirates on Sunday a few days ago, right?
Right.
And you think about the kind of ABs he's giving you at the bottom of the lineup, the defense that he brings you wherever you put him in there. But what has he done to the culture? I mean, other than the singing, which I'll get to because I want to
That
ask
is
you about
big, though.
that. Oh, I'm going to ask you about that. But what just take me inside, take the fans inside. What has it really meant to the culture, his addition to this team?
Yeah, Casey, it's I'd seen him in Detroit plenty too, and I always knew he was a good player, and he's always known for his defense. But before I get started here, I mean, the sucker can hit too, man. I mean, he's gotten better, the longer he plays. But you look at his career, it is offensively he's better than you probably would imagine, right? Because I always viewed him as a defensive specialist, which he is, But there's just, there's something you and I were talking about before we started. Some way during the season, somebody will show up or something will happen, and it just kind of sparks things, or it kind of settles things, or something changes, right? And so when we got up here, a big part of it is, he's a fun-loving, good guy that's upbeat, that picks everybody up, right? And that's what he was doing when he got here. He kind of was that good feeling guy. And then, of course, then he started playing. It's been very, very productive. And then we come out with a big song, and it's like, but there's just something. There's no question that he has done something. It's just his presence here to this team, and kind of everything's kind of coincided with us getting better.
Now, how is your Spanish? Are you in on the lyrics? Because I've got my kids like
Poquito.
wanting this. Un poquito, sí, yo
Hey,
también.
hey,
Más que
Case,
poquito para mí, sí.
I have a hard enough time with English, man. I'm not speaking a whole lot of Spanish.
I mean, I've got my kids wanting to listen to this song in the car.
Yeah,
So, like, everybody's into it. So, are you singing along? Like, how into this are you? Be fair and be honest. Like, you've heard this song now a million times, right? It's pretty good.
it's catchy. Yeah,
We're
oh
kind of
yeah.
surprised, right? Look, a major leaguer all of a sudden can sing. What the hell? What is this, karaoke night? But all
Yeah,
of a sudden, it's good.
it's really good. You know what? Before this all really took off, I had heard that song, or maybe it was his walk-up song. And I'm going, I thought, dang, where'd that song come from? I said, and then somebody said, that's him singing. I said, what? No way. And that's kind of where I got introduced to it, right? But then, when we started playing it all the time, when good things are happening, it is catchy, man. And we find ourselves, and me included, 62-year-old man walking around the clubhouse humming it, or at least singing, oh my God, it's like, it's unbelievable, and that's gonna carry us to the promised land. You never know.
I mean, if you keep singing that song, I'll just make it go viral, and then it'll take me to the promised land. So
Oh,
we'll
you're
be,
already there, man.
well, talking to you, of course I am. Of
Uh,
course, John Gibbons, bench coach of the Mets, is joining
sorry.
us. Apple, Spotify, every podcast on Filtered and Bleav in Mets. So, for you being back in the dugout, and with the Mets specifically, I mean, you and I talked about this a number of times on and off air, before you did it, right? When you knew you had the job. But what's it been like? How nostalgic has it been? Have you soaked it in any more than you kind of did? Because you're not sure when you leave the game, right? As a manager, whether or not you're going to be back in the dugout. What's it been like for you?
Casey, I really enjoyed it, and a lot of that has to do with the guys I'm working with. There's no question about that. And Mendoza's been really good to me, and let me do my thing. But I will tell you this: the game is so different now than I remember, which was just 5 years ago. The analytics was on the scene, wasn't as heavy and big as it is now, right? And there's a lot of good info out there, but it still comes down to the basics, I think, and using good judgment and things like that. And our front office is here, David Stearns and them. They're really good at like giving us some leeway, giving Mendoza, that they just, hey, do your thing the best you know how, and they give them the info and all that, which is important because I know there's a lot of places out there they can strong arm some of these guys, and that's not ideal. But it's right now it's really an ideal place to be. I've really enjoyed it. How long it lasts, I've got no idea. But I think I told you back when we talked that the thing I missed most about the game was the boys in the clubhouse, the competition, and didn't miss all the BS. And I can still say that. It's good to see these guys. Every day you go to the clubhouse, and there's your buddies and the guys you're doing this with every day, and then the competition of the game starts. But But now I don't deal with all the BS. Mendoza has to deal with all that crap, right? So,
You get to have your cake and eat it too, right?
that's right. So from that end, it's been really enjoyable.
I know clearly, obviously, covering the game 2 decades plus, and I think most diehard fans understand the role of a bench coach. But there are a lot of people who are listening and watching who may not, and younger fans probably don't. How do you kind of best describe? I used to say the consigliere, right? To use the old term, right? Is
Yeah.
basically right. I mean, is kind of the best way to put it. How do you kind of put a finger on and describe what your role is day in and day out for people who don't understand from the outside and from their vantage point as a fan what a bench coach does daily?
Well, Casey, I mean, it's different now than it was, a few years ago when I was managing because uh, it's funny when I first got the job, I told Carlos, I said, listen, now I've never organized. I've been because I was a bench coach in Kansas City, you know, in between
For
jobs in
Trey
Toronto
Hillman, was it for Trey
for Trey
Hillman?
Hillman
Yeah,
and
yep,
then Ned Yost,
yep,
for both of those
yep.
guys. And I said, dang, Carlos, I better let you know that I've never organized a spring training. This is your first spring training. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. We got coaches for that, right? And so all teams have guys, a lot of them anyway, that do that. And it turns out our guy is Danny Barnes, who pitched for me in Toronto. One of he did a great job for us. So thank God he's here. Put it that way. So spring training was, and because I'll sit there in my chair and go, dang, there's no way I could have done all this. So a lot of that technical stuff and all the different things he takes care of. Barnes he takes care of, right? And that's a good thing because otherwise I might not be here. But then a lot of it during the game. Mendy will bounce some things off of me, and most of the time, your manager and your pitching coach are driving the pitching moves and things like that. They're in each other's ear like that, and then the bench coach is also another a sounding board, or maybe say, what do you think about blah blah blah, whatever. And then so that's kind of what we do here, and that's kind of, I think, the norm most places. And then the bench coach will always keep an eye on maybe if we need a pinch run or defense and all that. But I find myself, I tell you, Mendy, he did that job with the Yankees, for a long time. And, he's on the ball, man. Sometimes he'll remind me that, hey, we're going to run for this guy. Go, oh, yeah, yeah. So not only is he doing the managing, he's doing the benching job too. So
That makes it
anyway,
easy. That's all right. You guys got. I mean, you got to back each other up, and one hand washes the other. But that role is a trusted role, but it also comes with trust that you build, and you guys didn't know each other, right? I
right.
mean, that which is a weird and not weird, but it's a different scenario. A lot of
Yeah,
times, right? Managers will pull in like their guy, their buddy, or whoever, right? You did this when you had
yeah.
staffs under you, right? I mean, you kind of do it that way. How has that relationship kind of developed over the first half of the season for you?
We took to each other right away. I knew the first time I talked to
And
him on
move
the
your
phone.
phone down so I could see your beautiful face.
No,
Thanks.
that was the whole
Okay.
idea. But no, Case, the first time I talked to him on the phone, we had that connection, and you could usually tell right away when you first talk to somebody. And of course, I had a couple guys out there that vouched for me, which went a long way too. But you never know. You never really know until you're with each other every day. But it goes back to what I said a while ago. He's a good man. And when you got that, you know, uh, he respects what everybody else has done in the game, and he lets everybody do their job. And then he knows he's got to make the final decision, and that's big because there's a lot of control guys out there that won't let guys do their job or are always looking over the shoulder, and that a lot of times you run into trouble. But shoot, he knows we got a good coaching staff. He lets them do their job, and then he makes the final decision, and we all get along. And when you're winning, we all get along even that much better.
As a guy who your playing days were long ago, your managing days not long ago, your playing days long ago, but you know a thing or two about catchers. This Alvarez is pretty good. It's it's remarkable to watch, and I almost want to kind of go reverse with him because one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is that this guy could easily have been. Well, he's got a lot of power. He could be a 40 home run bat consistently, so he'll be a DH or he'll be a first baseman. It's always right. We're moving him out of catcher's roles because we just figure that guy can't play defensively or whatever. How about the work he's put on the defensive end that you've seen since day one of spring training and you've watched here so far?
Hey, Case, I mean, well, he's a complete package. I mean, you watch him hit. He's a powerful hitter, and he's gives you good at bat. He's just not up there wailing away, and he's going to be very productive with the bat his whole career, right? Now you got a catcher that can really hit, but defensively, he's got great hands. He's got a great arm. You got the total package there that you can be the backbone of your team for a number of years. Which is every team's looking for that guy, right? And he's a young man. He's learning, but he's another guy. He shows up every day. He's got a smile on his face. He's enthusiastic. He doesn't get down in the dumps about anything. And so we got a lot of guys like that. It's contagious. They don't get down on themselves. But I'm going to tell you too, though. We picked up a guy, Torrens, from the Yankees. When he came over, this guy's good too. I don't know how the heck the Yankees let him go. He can really throw. He's a good catcher, and this guy can hit too.
Had some big hits.
Yeah,
Some big hits.
yeah,
Yes.
And he can shut down the running game as well. He throws as good as anybody, and and we were talking the other day. I said, "Well, how the heck did we get this guy from the Yankees, man?" I know they got a couple guys they like, but good thing we did, because when he stepped in when he first got here, he carried the load, and then Albie came back, and now we got two that I don't think there's anybody any better out there than either one of them, and that's not exaggerating things.
When you're sitting there in Toronto, you put together some lineups that had some, just loaded for bear with power. And no matter how you put the Donaldsons and the Bautistas and the Encarnacion, all those guys, you knew you had protection in your lineup for big bats because you had a lot of that. The Mets have not had a lot of that the last couple of years. You, during those years, had to manage against them, watch the Red Sox with JD Martinez hitting home runs and driving in runs left and right. What kind of a difference did it make in terms of Gibby, the pressure it took off the rest of the lineup just the minute that he was put in there?
Oh yeah, yeah. That one extra guy you're talking about JD. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another guy I'd seen play, but I didn't see him on a day in day out basis, right? But he's just a pure hitter. He's much better than I thought he was, But I'm going to tell you about this group here. You mentioned the Blue Jays team. We were basically a slugging team, right? A lot of home runs, and we kind of lived and died with that. We faced a guy that could pitch a little bit, he'd give us trouble, But if we were hitting our home runs, get out of the, watch out, right? This team right here, we got a few more guys that are more pure hitter types that'll use the whole field. It's a big old ballpark. It's tough to hit them here. But when JD got here, he was just that one extra guy that you put in the middle. That he's up there. He's a hitter. You don't have to rely on the long ball for him to generate runs. He'll shoot those gaps. He'll draw his walks. All those things. He's much better than I thought he was going to be. And there was this point there. In this great stretch we've been on. I mean, he carried us for a couple of weeks. He was the guy. He was coming through. Night after night, and saved us in a lot of ways there. So, we've got a deep lineup. He said we got good starting pitching, and we got some depth. Senga's supposed to be coming back here.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be like a big trade, right? And
Fingers crossed. Yes.
So if you think about all that, we're in a good spot. We worked hard to get to this point. Now we just hey, go out there and each night try to win the game and see where you end up at the end of the year.
All right, now let me dig a little before I let you run, because for those who maybe are younger and don't realize the personality that you bring to the table, and you've been on this show many times, including once where the view of you now is fine. There was once where you were at your in-laws' place and you were sitting on a bed with the computer. So I mean, we've had all sorts of different conversations here. Are you? Because I know obviously you're in New York just for this. You're in a hotel.
Yeah, that's where I live.
You got you living in the hotel. I know that, right? So they got you living in the hotel, because I see those are hotel curtains. You could just, for those who are watching, like those.
Okay.
Oh yeah, those are hotel curtains. Like you just know there's a do not disturb thing on the door on the other side of the camera. So
it's over there.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
In case I got my suitcase here that I never unpacked.
Can we get the hell out of here? You still haven't unpacked?
No, man. I basically wear the same clothes every day to the park, because I got them up for 5 minutes. I go to the park, put a uni on, and they never get dirty.
How many suitcases did you bring?
2. I brought way too many clothes. But yeah, I live in a stay in a hotel near the ballpark. I get there, I'm most of the days at the ballpark, so I just instead of trying to find a lease and trying to find a place that. Plus,
Oh
I didn't
no,
want.
I get it, and I'm not going to say it out loud because I know which one they use. But I'm just admiring. So you have 2 suitcases. You have not unpacked, so you don't put the clothes in the drawers or in the closet when you're.
Well, when my wife's here, she does it. But when she's not, no. Why? Then I
Well,
have to
I
pack
don't
it
know
again.
because you're going to be there a while, and because then you could like put your. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to my kids, but then you could take the stuff and put it in the suitcase for the road. But then you've got like your home base. It feels homey, and you got the suitcase put away, and look, you can go look at all your Hawaiian shirts or whatever the hell you're wearing. It makes you feel homey. No.
But then I got to fold them again and put them back in the suitcase if I do that. I got that one of the spray bottles, the wrinkle bottles. Just
Yeah, I know how that goes.
and this isn't my home. My home's at the ballpark. You know that.
Right, fair
So
enough. Okay, fair enough. Now, are you? Let me ask you this before All-Star break coming up. What are you going to do? You going to go? Are you going home? Are you going to go away? What are you going to do?
yeah, I'm going back to Texas. Yeah, I've been there in a while, and yeah, I always look forward to that. But we're there,
Little home cooking.
little home cooking. Then we start the second half down there in Miami. So you know,
Does the missus miss you, or she's utilizing the break?
well, she actually comes up here. She comes up a lot. Hey, Kay, she's a wildlife photographer, right?
I know that. And you showed me, by the way,
Yeah, that's right.
the
Yeah,
pictures
but
are amazing, like amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
but they've been kind enough to let her photograph some of the baseball games, so she
Oh,
comes
that's
out there.
awesome. Really?
Yeah. So
I love that.
we had Mark Levine, who was a
Yes, of course.
photographer.
I'm
It's
so sad about that.
tragic what
I met him
happened.
a
Yeah,
million times.
yeah.
Was a terrifically nice man.
And he was really good to us, and so sad what happened. And but yeah, so she does come up just so she can do that. I don't know if to see me, but just to take some pictures. So,
All right. Well,
all these young guns.
You spruce up the curtains behind you and make it feel like home, because you got half a season and some playoffs still to go. Gibby, always appreciate this, my friend. It's so great to catch up with you, and I'm thrilled for you to be back in the mix, but with a team that's having a lot of fun. And I know you wouldn't give yourself any credit, but you deserve some for part of that vibe and the culture and everything that's happened in that clubhouse. Appreciate you, my friend.
Case, man, it's always great to see you, pal. Keep up the good work anytime, man.
Go unpack.
Hey,
go unpack.
go unpack. Well, I'm leaving in 2 days. Why am I packing?
Okay, fair enough. You wait till you get back. Next time. Maybe bring another suitcase. Appreciate you, my friend. There he is, John Gibbons. You can catch us on Bleav in Mets and Unfiltered everywhere you get your podcast, presented by